Hello, it's Nancy today. I thought I should give you an update. Yes, indeed. So today is Saturday. We're having quite a lovely snowstorm outside. 7 inches or something we're supposed to get. And I've been sitting here trying to journal, recapping everything that's been going on lately. For those of you who haven't watched much, don't know what's up, I have, we went to Georgia in December. We came back in January, turned on the pipes, turned on the water, and it had frozen in the kitchen. So we put a heater on it and it thawed in the kitchen, but it had broken the pipes. And so we turned the water back off and went to Ottawa and had a big crisis going on. So anyway, we stayed in Ottawa for a few weeks. Then we came back. Jenny came over from Germany. And we came back home and had no running water. So we would bring buckets of snow in and melt it on the wood stove for flushing the toilet. And we just let everything else go. We didn't do dishes or anything. We just didn't make any dirty dishes, I guess. Oh yes, I had a colonoscopy. And so we stayed in Ottawa while I prepped for that. And then after that, I felt so nice and tidy and clean inside. I didn't want to eat, so I did juice. I did carrot juice and other vegetable juices. And that lasted for a few weeks, and I lost about, I don't remember what it was, 11 pounds or something. I can't remember. And then I was very careful counting all my calories and things. Anyway, as time wore on, chaos, we went to the temple one weekend. Anyway, the insurance decided they would pay for the flood and the fixing of all the pipes that were broken from it. Turns out there were 9 broken pipes in the basement and in the walls and ceilings. They pulled out the ceiling in the downstairs bedroom, and they pulled out the floor in the kitchen and in the bathroom and in the bedroom. And they will pull out the living room floor later. It flooded up into the living room enough to get under the edge. And so if it ruins any part of the floor, they replace the whole thing. So we had huge fans on and a dehumidifier for a couple weeks while they forgot about us. Oh, when they pulled out the ceiling, first they boxed up everything that was loose in our bedroom and filled the boxes about half full and stacked them up. So we had 13 huge boxes in the bedroom. So that's about when I decided to start feeding the deer. I think I had looked out the window and seen a deer on the compost pile, so I thought, So I went and bought deer food, and I started feeding the deer. And that became my refuge, my solace. I could sit in front of the door in the downstairs bedroom, even though the bed was standing on its side and surrounded by boxes. I had deer feed, and I could sit there and film them and not have to think about all the other stuff happening. So eventually, it seemed like months later, but it was probably weeks, the plumbers from the restoration company showed up, and they started fixing all the pipes. And they decided that they had finished fixing everything. So we now had water, but we only had cold water. And it turns out it was coming out, oh no, wait, before that, they came to do an emergency thing. So they gave us a tap in the same day they were pulling out the ceilings. They gave us an emergency tap in the living room. So it was sticking up out of the bathroom, out of the basement, which is a 2-foot cellar or something like that. They put it so we could fill buckets, so we could heat water and do dishes, and so we could flush the toilet. Oh, and they also got the downstairs toilet going. So those were perfect. Working. And then they came back a few weeks later and fixed 9 breaks in the pipes and discovered more breaks and kept ripping apart parts of walls and ceilings so they could find where things were coming from and fix all these leaks. And then they said, turn off the water at night because the pressure might push through and create another leak, or you might find another leak or something. So turn it off at night. So they left and they told the insurance, who had paid them $13,000 to do all this renovation, which is highway robbery, don't you think? Anyway, so they told the insurance that the plumbing was done. Meanwhile, the plumbing started to leak in the basement at one of those connections, and there was no hot water, and when we turned the hot water heater on, it tripped the fuse. There was something wrong with the hot water heater, and that was not their problem, even though the fact that there was any problem with the hot water heater had to do with us having gone away and not having, having the pipes frozen or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's because the water was, we had drained the pipe so it wouldn't freeze, or tank so it wouldn't freeze. Anyway, so we were going to have to get a new hot water heater. That was our problem. And now there was no cold water coming out of any of the taps. The taps are those kind that are, you turn it this way and you get cold, and you turn it the other way and you get hot. So it turned out that all the water coming out was cold water because we had no hot water tank working. But it was coming out the hot water side, and nothing was coming out the cold water side. Well, we were told to just unscrew our little screens, and it must have been calcification in the lines, and that would clear it up. So that's what the adjuster was told when she talked to the renovation company. And so that's what she told me, and said that, so it's not an insurance problem. It's not their problem, it's our problem. So we hired, and then there was a broken toilet upstairs. We had glued it with tape, not tape, gook, whatever that is, silicone, years ago. So because of all this insurance stuff, they sent out a company to check our insurance. So the underwriters wanted to know, have a good look. So they took pictures of the house, and before they came, we hired an electrician because there were a few questionable electrical things happening in the house. So he was here for 2 days fixing things, and and she came and took a picture outside, and took pictures of the glass teepee and the other teepees, and then they sent us something in the mail that said that our glass teepee was a liability and it was not going to be insured, and could we please sign this immediately and send it back. Also, we had to fix the toilet immediately by a qualified plumber. So we called another plumber. We called a lot of plumbers, and the first one that got back to us got the job, right? So he came, and the idea was for him to come and fix the toilet, right? But we also had bought, in the meantime, a water softener and a hot water heater because of the calcification in the lines was the real problem, causing all these cold water. Then we needed to fix that. Meanwhile, it was nice to have some running water, but we still couldn't take showers or anything. We could heat up a little bit of water and take sponge baths, but that was all. So he came yesterday, and he installed the hot water tank and the water softener, not putting it onto the kitchen tap. I wanted the kitchen tap free of that, so we could have our good, clean, pure tasting water. And I guess the outside tap is also not included in that. So that took him all day. Ginny suggested that before they put the new toilet down, we should put in a new linoleum in the bathroom. So all these trips, we're going back and forth to Ottawa all the time, getting all these things. So Anyway, he unhooked the sink so we could lift the sink up, and we already had taken Willem had taken the toilet out himself. So we got the floor down, and the plumber helped hold the sink up so we could slide the flooring under it. Anyway, but then he didn't have time to work on the toilet because it was still working on the water softener. I didn't realize that so much was involved in installing a water softener. Anyway, so he said that the reason the cold water taps were not working, now that he had gotten the hot water in, there was no cold. He said that's because when the plumbers from the restoration company had been here and had put the new pipes through the basement, they had pushed one pipe through. It's sand in our basement. We are built on a house on a sand foundation. So the sand had gotten into the pipe. They usually would tape the pipe, the end of it, and then take it over there, but these guys hadn't taped the pipe, and he said it was obvious from the looks of the pipe. You could see that it had been dragged through the sand or pushed through the sand. And so sand had been, as the cold water is the first to come on whenever they restore plumbing, the cold water sand had gotten into every single tap in the house, and that was why the taps were not working. So I called our insurance adjuster again, who had closed the account, and told her about this, and she said, well, last time you said just to take off the screens. Well, two of these taps don't have screens on them, and they're clogged up. Anyway, the plumber said it would take him as much time to do them as it would to just buy new taps, and the money would be the same. So she called the contractor people, who said that yes, it was their fault, if that's what the case was. He called and talked to the plumber that was here, and so the insurance was they're gonna cover that. So he'll have to come back and replace all the taps. And the electrician is still coming. He's fixing all kinds of things. The one thing the insurance company wanted was to have electrical heaters as the primary heat source, and plugging them into the wall is not good enough. You have to have hardwired installed heaters. So there's still more heaters that need to be put in throughout the house, as this is supposed to be our primary source of heat, and the wood stove is a secondary source of heat, which we never think of it as. We have primary source of heat as our wood stove, and only very, very rarely do we ever turn on the baseboard heaters because they're so expensive. Anyway, so there's the update. So the electrician is going to come back, and he's going to install some fans, and he's going to install more baseboard heaters. And in the meantime, I've been watching the deer, and I put in these windows in our cave-like bedroom upstairs. So we have this beautiful view up here. So there we go. And we're having all of our houses really getting redone, isn't it? It's going to be beautiful, I hope, perhaps someday. Whatever. Okay, that's the update, the official version. Bye-bye. You can do this at home. Results may differ.